Thank you all for joining us. You're watching our mid-morning edition of Arirang News on this Wednesday, April 22nd. Coming to you live from Seoul, I'm Shin Se-min. Before we begin, these are the stories we're following at this hour. The mind-boggling drop in oil prices continues with the futures price for June falling into the teens. And to find a breakthrough in this crisis, the South Korean government and the nation's oil industry are meeting today. The South Korean government will be rolling out another set of comprehensive plans to support the nation's job market slammed by the coronavirus economic fallout. Plus, South Korea's Foreign Affairs and Unification Parliamentary Committee holds a closed-door meeting with the topic likely on the rumored ill health of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. U.S. President Trump saying he doesn't know about Kim's health and wish him well. Our starting point again this morning, the oil prices. U.S. crude oil price futures for May rebounded on Tuesday to finish trading just over $9 a barrel. But the futures price for June fell well below the $20 range it posted the day before. It was a highly volatile day for U.S. crude prices as June's future prices rose as high as $22.58 and saw a low of $6.50. At the closing bell, it finished at $11.57, down more than 43% from a day earlier. The global benchmark Brent also saw a sharp drop in its June futures, falling below $20 a barrel. With COVID-19 hammering both the global and local oil industries, South Korea's trade minister and leaders of the local oil industry will put their heads together on Wednesday afternoon to discuss ways to overcome this crisis. Now, this will be the first time for Trade Ministers Hong Yun-mo to meet with four of the CEOs of SK Energy, GS Caltex, S-Oil, and Hyundai Oil Bank. Considering that the crisis is highly likely to drag on, topics may include measures previously requested by the oil industry, such as restructuring tax exemptions. With travel restrictions imposed all around the world, oil consumptions across various industries, including aviation, has collapsed. And South Korean automakers have witnessed a major decline in exports as U.S. and European markets have been hit hard by the COVID-19 outbreak. With domestic automakers struggling to cope, South Korean government says it will provide sufficient liquidity to the ailing industry. Our Lee Seung-jae tells us more.
Data released by the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy on Tuesday show that South Korea's auto exports plunged a whopping 45.8% in the first 17 days of April from a year earlier, as it deals with the ongoing impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Outbound shipments were 48,800 units over the first 17 days of the month. That's over 90,000 units under the amount shipped during the same period last year. The massive drop was due to the automakers' two major markets, the United States and Europe, getting hit hard by the virus. Production output has also been affected as manufacturing plants in Europe, the U.S., and India were ordered to close. However, according to South Korea's trade minister, auto exports may continue to decline in the coming months.
Production numbers in May and June are also expected to be sluggish. If sales continue to decline, the 8,000 primary, secondary, and tertiary parts suppliers will also struggle.
Hyundai Motor plans to raise $240 million by selling corporate bonds next month. The company plans to hold a debt sale on May 8th with a maturity period of 3 to 7 years in order to secure operating capital. In October 2016, Hyundai sold a similar amount of corporate bonds with a 5-year maturity to raise funds. To help struggling domestic automakers, the government has vowed to provide them with sufficient liquidity. The Trade Ministry did not give further details about the support or what specific forms it might take, but the assistance will also help auto parts suppliers hit hard by the recent downturn. Automobiles are one of South Korea's major export items, accounting for around 8% of the country's total outbound shipments in 2019. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
At the nation's top office, President Moon Jae-in will be chairing yet another emergency economic council meeting session this morning, this time to lay out measures to prop up the country's job market that has been slammed by the COVID-19 outbreak. Now, it could be including ways to support those who have been laid off, providing incentives for firms that hold on to employees, as well as funds to help the country's key industries such as aviation and automobile manufacturing. Now, the government has already implemented fiscal measures to help small and medium-sized companies, as well as emergency relief payments for households in the lower 70% income bracket. Global credit rating agency Standard & Poor's has left South Korea's credit ratings unchanged at AA despite the coronavirus pandemic. Even though the country is facing negative economic growth this year, the S&P forecasts the government's stimulus package will boost South Korea's GDP growth rate by up to 5%. Our Kim Hyo-sun tells us more.
S&P has maintained South Korea's credit ratings at their previous levels despite the COVID-19 pandemic. The global ratings firm kept its long-term sovereign credit rating at AA and short-term at A+, adding that South Korea's current economic slump is only temporary. S&P also said the country is witnessing its first negative economic growth since 1998, with minus 1.5%, but added it's expected to rebound next year. It forecasts Seoul's economy will grow at a rate of up to 5%, backed by a recovery in consumption and the government's stimulus policy. It also lauded South Korea's successful COVID-19 response, including swift testing and contact tracing. As for the country's fiscal balance, S&P predicted the deficit will widen, especially due to continued stimulus packages, before it turns to modest surpluses over the medium term. The global ratings firm, however, pointed to North Korea as a possible risk that will affect South Korea's stable outlook. It said there are continued geopolitical tensions as no progress has been made on the North's denuclearization talks. S&P's rating for South Korea has remained unchanged at AA since 2016. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
Mixed reports on the health of the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un have been filling headlines across the world. But still, no confirmation on any of the reports so far. And U.S. President Donald Trump a couple of hours ago wished Kim Jong-un well while saying he doesn't know about his conditions. Our Kim Dami has the details.
While rumors are mounting over the health of the North Korean leader, U.S. intelligence officials insist they're just having to watch how it plays out. U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien said on Tuesday that the Trump administration is closely monitoring reports out of the North on Kim's health. In an interview with CNN, O'Brien did note that someone in his family may succeed him if he couldn't continue to lead. However, O'Brien stressed it's still too early to talk about that because the U.S. is unsure about Kim's current condition. In fact, just a day after reporting that Kim was in grave danger, CNN cautiously noted Tuesday that the U.S. is closely monitoring intelligence for updates. Reacting to the reports on Tuesday, U.S. President Donald Trump said during a White House briefing that no one has confirmed anything regarding Kim's health yet, but he wished the North Korean leader well. According to NBC on the same day, U.S. officials reportedly told them that Kim may have been incapacitated after a heart surgery, but the South Korean government has cast doubt over such rumors, saying it has seen no unusual activity north of the border. NBC further added that U.S. government reports indicate Kim has been out of public view for days because of a recent surgical procedure. Fox News, however, warned against taking too much stock in the flood of reports and rumors on Kim, urging its viewers to wait until the regime clarifies the situation. While rumors fly around the world, the North state-run Korean Central News Agency reported on Tuesday that Kim sent birthday gifts to exemplary workers in the regime. The agency, however, did not include any date or picture related to Kim's supposed show of generosity. Quoting an anonymous South Korean government official on Wednesday, the South Korean newspaper 중앙일보 reported that Kim Jong-un is actually at one of his cottages in Gangwon-do province, where he is working on regular leadership duties and various activities. Kim Dami, Arirang News.
And staying with that topic, South Korea's National Assembly is holding a Foreign Affairs and Unification Committee meeting as we speak, with both the respective ministers in attendance. It's a closed-door session, and the committee is set to check on the reports and rumors regarding North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's health, as well as the general security situation surrounding the Korean Peninsula. Now, they are also expected to discuss the defense cost-sharing deal between Seoul and Washington that still has to be agreed. Shifting focus, over 2.5 million people globally have now contracted coronavirus, with the number of death toll now well over 175,000. The U.S., with near 800,000 cases, taking up over 31% of the global infections. One deemed epicenter of the virus in Europe, Italy is set to ease its coronavirus lockdown starting May 4th, though the long-awaited rollback will be cautious and calculated, according to its PM. Sweden saw its highest daily COVID-19 death toll with 185 fatalities on Tuesday alone, all while the country refuses to go into lockdown. Over in Japan, the country will extend its suspension of visas held by foreign nationals until the end of May, as the confirmed patients there reached over 12,000 as of Tuesday. New research suggests only a small percentage of recovered COVID-19 patients generate an antibody to the virus that would prevent them from contracting it over and over again. Now, the researchers say that means the focus should remain on quarantine measures while bracing for a potential second wave of infections. Our Kim Sang-min reports.
Whenever a pathogen is detected, our body's immune system fights it to generate the antibody to kill it. Fighting infections can give our body immunity from the pathogen should it infect us again. Vaccination helps by providing us with the antibody before we get ill, but a vaccine for COVID-19 is likely a way away. Countries like Sweden and the United Kingdom have opted to try and build a so-called herd immunity, which means allowing the overall population to become sufficiently immune so the virus eventually stops spreading as it can't find enough suitable hosts. But recent research suggests an antibody for COVID-19 is not easily developed by our body's immune systems. A sero-epidemiology study from the Netherlands says only 2 to 3% of patients who have fully recovered from COVID-19 were found to have the antibody. The head of the World Health Organization also said only a small percentage of the population, even in heavily affected areas, may have produced the antibody after being infected. The UK-based newspaper The Guardian wrote such a low percentage would seriously undermine hopes for developing herd immunity to COVID-19. South Korea's Centers for Disease Control and Prevention interpreted the results as an extra reason to maintain tight quarantine measures in the nation.
The fact that only a small portion of the European population has generated an antibody to COVID-19 suggests we cannot let our guard down.
South Korea is also planning its own research about the percentage of recovered patients who have developed an antibody.
We accept we have to tighten our preparedness against the potential for a new wave, and we'll try our best.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention plans to accelerate steps for R&D while planning long-term countermeasures to mitigate the spread of the virus. Kim Sang-min, Arirang News.
Good morning. We are seeing some rapid changes to the weather so far this month. About a week ago, Seoul had early summer-like weather, but today is a real chilly one. In fact, upper regions will see readings in the single digits all day today, so be sure to dress warmly on your way out. Winds, however, will continue to be strong in places, and especially in parts of Gangwon-do province, with severe tropical storm force winds expected there. So people are advised to take all precautionary measures to guard against potentially damaging winds. So the wind will make it feel colder, and even an ample amount of sunshine will not do much to warm things up. Although some parts of the country will see more bearable temperatures this afternoon, but be mindful that we could see high to very high levels of yellow dust during the day. The cooler temperature trend is expected to continue for the next 5 days, while a decent amount of sunshine will soak the capital region. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for views around the globe.
And that's all the time we have at this hour on Arirang News, but we'll be back with more of the day's headlines coming up in our later newscast at noon Korea time, so do join us again then. Thank you for watching and goodbye.